Hello, I'm Robin, and welcome to BookSpin. Paradox Lost by Fredric Brown. This is a short story collection published in 1973. Now, I chose to read this as a bit of a palate cleanser, as I've been reading a lot of novels recently and I wanted to try something a little different, some short form science fiction. So I decided to pick this book up last year based on a recommendation by Josh on his channel Sci-Fi Bookery, which I can highly recommend, and I'll leave a link in the description down below. Unfortunately, this book has been out of print for a long time, so if you want to pick up a copy, you are going to need to find a second-hand copy. Now, Fredric Brown was a 20th century American writer who gained some reputation for his mastery of short stories in the fields of mystery fiction and science fiction. And this particular collection contains 13 of his short stories, originally published in pulp magazines from the 1940s to the 1960s. And while they are all ostensibly science fiction, as the title states, Paradox Lost and 12 other great science fiction stories, they actually span a range of genres, including mystery, horror, fantasy, and humour. The tone of the writing is frequently outlandish, sometimes humorous, and sometimes horrific. In fact, I would say that some of the stories in this volume are pure horror more than anything else. But one thing they all have in common is they are all instantly engaging, and they all put the characters in bizarre or unsettling situations, and they usually have a twist ending. And as such, it's difficult for me to describe any of these stories in any detail without heading into spoilers. So what I'll do is I'll just introduce some of these stories so you can get a flavour of what they're like. So the first story is the title story, Paradox Lost. And this is a really bizarre time travel story. And in this story we have the main character who's a student sitting in a very boring class lecture, and he witnesses a fly buzzing around his desk, and the fly suddenly vanishes. And when he tries to find out what's going on, where did the fly go, it soon becomes apparent that the fly has disappeared into a time bubble. And he tries to follow the fly into this time bubble. And the story takes off from there. And like I said, this is a very strange one. It's not my favourite story in the volume, but it does contain some very intriguing ideas and an interesting twist at the end. Another story that I think is worth mentioning, and one of the most memorable ones for me, is called Something Green. And this is a kind of psychological drama about a man who has been shipwrecked on a far-off planet. This story's got a bit more of a serious tone, but it's also very strange. And it's basically a survival tale. And it's called Something Green because there's a complete absence of the colour green on this planet, which seems to drive the protagonist crazy. So I enjoyed that one. We've also got another interesting story called Knock, which is a really outlandish and pulpy tale set in a world in which a super powerful alien race has colonized Earth and wiped out almost all life, save a few male and female pairings from different species that have been allowed to survive, including one man and one woman, which is all we have left of humanity. And they have been caged in a spaceship in a kind of zoo. So in this story, we follow these two humans with their interactions with each other and their hosts. Then we've got a few stories which combine crime thrillers with horror, such as 10%er, It Didn't Happen, and Eine kleine Nachtmusik. These are all good fun to read. The emphasis on these stories is less on the sci-fi and more on the bizarre character developments and the plot, putting the protagonist in the role of the criminal and rounding off with outlandish or horrific twists. These are all good fun to read. And there's another story called Obedience, which is like a mini space opera / military sci-fi story. Quite a thought-provoking one at that. And Double Standard, which again is another very different story. It's a kind of humorous satire on TV censorship from the point of view of a character living within a TV show. So those aren't all the stories, but those are probably the ones which are most memorable for me. They're all solid and engaging reads. I can't really tell you anything more about them without spoiling them. Some of the stories aren't quite as good as these, but that's pretty common to find in any short story collection. So there is a bit hit and miss going on, but overall I did enjoy almost all of the stories, and there's some pretty intriguing plot twists and some really good ones. Some of them are a little predictable. The quality of the writing is generally pretty high, with tightly focused dialogue, intriguing ideas, and plot devices that instantly draw you in. So all in all, an enjoyable collection, a nice palate cleanser, and worth seeking out if you like short form sci-fi and mystery fiction. So I'm giving Paradox Lost a score of 4 stars. Alright, it's been a while since I last gave the BookSpinner a spin. I've read a few books since then, so I've now removed them from the list, and I picked up one new book recently, that is Harvest of Time by Alastair Reynolds. This is a Doctor Who novel, and I don't normally go for TV or movie tie-in fiction, but I saw this recently and I was intrigued by the combination of Doctor Who and Alastair Reynolds. So I picked it up. Anyway, let's see what the next read is going to be. The Sparrow by Mary Doria Russell. I've been meaning to read this for quite a long time. Let's have a look at what it says on the back. After the first exquisite songs were intercepted by radio telescope, UN diplomats debated long and hard whether and why human resources should be expended in an attempt to reach the world that would become known as Rakat. In the Rome offices of the Society of Jesus, the questions were not whether or why, but how soon the mission could be attempted and whom to send. The Jesuit scientists went to Rakat to learn, not to proselytize. They went so that they might come to know and love God's other children. They went for the reason Jesuits have always gone to the farthest frontiers of human exploration. They went for the greater glory of God. They meant no harm. Taking you on an extraordinary journey to a distant planet and to the very centre of the human soul, Mary Doria Russell's The Sparrow is an extraordinary literary debut, a powerful, haunting and exciting novel about the nature of faith and what it means to be human. That sounds great. It's a first contact story, and it sounds like it's got some very intriguing ideas, some religious themes. So I'm looking forward to reading this one. I'll let you know what I think of it soon. I'm thinking that from now on, I won't be using the BookSpinner for every book that I read, so I'm probably going to alternate between using the BookSpinner and making my own decisions. Anyway, thank you for watching, and I'll see you again soon for some more science fiction content.